I've made a video about the history of Ferrari Dinos. I've made a video about the history and the vehicle that Tom Hartley Jr. has got for sale right now. A Ferrari Dino 246 GTS that has 8,310 miles on it, and it's unrestored. But what I'd really like to do is look at the other cars, the best examples that are for sale on the market worldwide today. The Ferrari Dino is one of those cars that started life as the not quite a Ferrari, and somehow became one of the most beautiful, desirable and expensive classic Ferraris in the world. And today I've been looking at some of the best Dino examples currently advertised around the world, and I'll tell you now, the prices are all over the place. We've got usable cars in the mid 200,000s, collector grade examples heading towards $500,000, and then the truly special early cars where the price is basically, please sit down before I tell you. So we're going to look at the best Ferrari Dinos for sale right now, what makes them special, and which ones I think are the real standout cars. Before we get into the adverts, you need to understand why the Dino has become such a big deal. The Dino was Ferrari's smaller, lighter, more delicate sports car. It didn't wear Ferrari badges in the traditional sense. When it was launched, it was named after Enzo Ferrari's son, Alfredo, known as Dino, who was closely associated with Ferrari's V6 engine development. This car wasn't just a styling exercise. It had emotion behind it, it had family history behind it, and it had one of the most beautiful shapes ever put on four wheels. The Dino wasn't about brute force. It wasn't a Daytona. It wasn't a big front engine V12 continent crusher. It was mid-engine, compact, beautifully balanced and utterly gorgeous. And that's why collectors now treat good examples like artwork. What's really interesting when you look at Ferrari Dinos for sale is how split the market has become. At one end you've got the usable Dino 246 GTS. These are all still expensive cars of course, but they're more realistic buying candidates. You might see them advertised around the mid 200,000s to low 300,000s, depending on condition, history, originality, and whether they're right-hand drive or left-hand drive. Then you've got the really strong collector's cars, low mileage, original paint, original interior, matching numbers, rare colours, UK right-hand drive. These can jump straight into the 400 to 550,000 pounds bracket. And then there are the proper unicorns. Early 206 GTs, L series cars, chairs and flares cars, very low mileage cars, special colours, cars with famous history, and those are in a completely different league again. That's where the market stops being about what's the book price and starts being about how badly does the collector want it. The Canepa 1968 Dino 206 GT. The first car that really stands out is a 1968 Ferrari Dino 206 GT being advertised by Canepa in America. And this is not just another Dino. This is one of those early cars. The 206 GT was the first production Dino road car, and only around 150 or so were built. So already it's much rarer than the later 246. But this particular car is even more interesting because it's in a rare colour. Nocciola. You're going to have to bear with me on this one. Nocciola. Metallizzato. Beautiful colour. That's a sort of metallic hazelnut shade, and it looks absolutely beautiful on the Dino shape. Not the predictable resale red Ferrari look, something far more elegant. It's also described as matching numbers with proper history. Something far more elegant. It's also described as matching numbers with proper history and the sort of specification that makes collectors wake up very quickly. And for me, this is probably the jewel of the shortlist because it has the three magic ingredients: rarity, the colour and provenance. The 206 GT is also more delicate than the later 246. It had the smaller 2-litre V6 engine, and early cars had wonderful period details like centre lock wheels and lightweight touches that make them feel really special. This isn't the Dino to buy if you just want to have one. This is the Dino to buy if you want one of the foundational cars in the entire Dino story. Next we've got a 1973 Dino 246 GT in blue, the Telesauto. And this one is interesting for a completely different reason. Well, it's more interesting to me, the advert, but I'll show you in a minute, because this isn't just about rarity. This is about preservation. This car is listed as a UK right-hand drive example with very low mileage, original paint, original interior, and matching chassis, engine and gearbox. And that's exactly the sort of thing serious collectors love, because anyone with money can restore a car. Anyone can make something shiny. Anyone can throw fresh paint, new leather, new carpets and chrome at a classic Ferrari. But originality can't be recreated. Once original paint is gone, it's gone. Once an original interior is ripped out, it's gone. Once a car has lost its untouched character, you can't really put that back. And that's why a car like this matters. A low mileage, original, right-hand drive Dino in beautiful period colour is not just a car, it's a reference point for history. It's the sort of thing that tells you what these cars were actually like when they were new. And that makes it massively more important than a freshly restored red car that's been polished to within an inch of its life. For me, this is probably the best preservation angle car on the market. Does it say how many miles it's done? 16,000 miles. So Tom Hartley's is a GTS, the open top. That's price on application again, so we're not getting a idea of how much Tom's or any others would be. Then there's a 1970 Ferrari Dino 246 GT L-Type in Japan. This one is listed at just over $500,000, and it's interesting because L-Series Dinos have a special place in the pecking order. The L-Series cars were the early 246 GTs. They have details that link them more closely to the 206 GT, and they're much rarer than the later M-Series and E-Series cars. So when you see an L-Type Dino with low kilometres, your ears prick up. This car is described as a left-hand drive car imported from Italy with only around 14,000 kilometres. Now obviously with a car like this, you'd want to go through the history properly. Mileage claims, originality, restoration history, bodywork, engine numbers, gearbox numbers, classiche paperwork, everything. Because these are the kind of cars where one missing detail can change the value dramatically. But on paper, it's definitely one of the more interesting global listings. And it shows just how international the Dino market has become. A car built in Italy, for sale in Japan, priced in American dollars, being watched by collectors all over the world. That's the classic Ferrari market in one advert. 14,000 kilometres, asking price $535,400. Another strong car is a 1970 Ferrari Dino 246 GT L-Series being offered by Gallery Oldering in the Netherlands. This one's described as matching numbers and matching colours, finished in Rosso Dino over Nero with red inserts. And this is where you can see how much early details matter, because to the casual viewer, a Dino is a Dino. It's pretty, it's curvy, it's got a V6, job done. But to collectors, the difference between a later E-Series and an earlier L-Series can be massive. The L-Series cars have the purer, early character. They're rarer. They sit closer to the original 206 GT idea. And in the Ferrari world, that matters too. This is why two cars that look broadly similar in photographs can be worth very different money. The value isn't just the shape, it's in the exact version, the history, the specification, the colours, the numbers, the paperwork, and whether the car has been messed about with. Now we get to one of the headline cars, a 1972 Dino 246 GT in Australia, advertised as around £545,000. That's a big number for a Dino 246 GT. But there are reasons why the advert is aiming high. It's a UK delivered factory right-hand drive E-Series car. It's yellow. It has documented Maranello concessionaire's history, and right-hand drive Dinos are far rarer than left-hand drive cars. That matters for a UK collector. That matters for an Australian collector. For anyone who wants the steering wheel on the correct side for those markets, it matters. But even so, 545,000 is a number that makes you sit up. Once you're at that level, you're not just buying a Dino, you're buying a story, you're buying the spec, you're buying the rarity, you're buying the right to say, find me another one like this. And that's where classic car pricing gets fascinating, because the market doesn't always move neatly. A usable Dino might be 250 grand, a better one might be 330 grand, a really special one might be 450 grand. And then one with the right colour, right history, right drive side and right originality can suddenly be knocking on the door of £550,000. Not normal car pricing, collector psychology. 77,111 kilometres, so it's not even low mileage. Then there's the 246 GTS. This is the Targa top version of the Dino, and for some people this is the one to have. The GT Coupe has the purest roofline. It's probably the cleaner design, but the GTS gives you open air motoring, which suits the whole romance of the Dino perfectly. Imagine that little V6 behind you, the roof panel off, a warm evening, a mountain road, and that beautiful Pininfarina shape around you, and the engine noise behind you. That's the dream, isn't it? The downside is that GTS values can be very strong, especially for European delivered cars, rare colours and cars with proper history. The Gallery Aldering GTS is a good example of that. It's one of those cars where the appeal is obvious instantly, but as always, the devil's in the detail. Is it matching numbers? Has it been restored? Who restored it? Is it Classage certified? Is the body straight? Has it had corrosion repairs? How good's the history file? With the Dinos, those questions are not small details. They're the difference between buying a gem and buying a very expensive headache. This vehicle's a left-hand drive. It's done 52,601 kilometres and it's 1973. They're asking £489,500 for it. Now what's that? Giallo flyover Nero leather, a pairing that perfectly reflects the car's character, bold yet refined. Now, I don't know how to describe this really. Not every Dino is £500,000. There are also more realistic UK examples advertised in the 250 to 330,000 region. And these might actually be the cars I'd be more interested in as a buyer if I had that kind of money. Because at that level, you're not necessarily paying the absolute top collector premium. You're looking at cars that may be usable, cars you might actually drive and take to the Sunday Classic Car Show, cars where you don't feel like every mile is knocking £1,000 off the value, you know, like you were driving an EV. For example, there are right-hand drive 246 GTs listed around 255 to 330,000. These are still expensive cars, let's not pretend otherwise, but compared with the 500,000 plus cars, they look like the more grounded part of the market. And honestly, there's a strong argument that the best Dino to own is not the most perfect Dino, because if it's too perfect, you won't use it. If it's too original, you'll be terrified of a stone chip. If it's too expensive, it becomes an investment object rather than a beautiful car. The sweet spot might be properly sorted, honest, matching numbers 246 GT with a good history, nice colours and enough miles that you can actually enjoy the thing. That's what these cars were built for, enjoyment. Not to sit under lights at a concourse event, but to drive. If you're looking for a Ferrari Dino, there are a few things I'd be careful about. First, originality. A freshly restored Dino can look incredible, but you need to know what it was like before the registration. Was it rusty? Was it crashed? Was it converted? Had it had a replacement engine? Has it lost its original colour? Second, matching numbers. With cars at this level, chassis, engine and gearbox numbers matter. They don't just matter a little bit, they can change the value dramatically. Third, bodywork. Dinos are beautiful, but they are not simple cars to restore properly. Poor repairs, corrosion, bad panel gaps, incorrect details, all of that can be incredibly expensive to sort. Fourth, documentation. A Dino without a proper history file is a risk. You want ownership history, service history, restoration invoices, old photographs, factory information, classiche paperwork if available, expert inspection, the lot. And finally, don't be seduced by colour alone. A red Dino is lovely, a yellow Dino is lovely, a blue Dino is stunning, but the colour doesn't save a bad car. The prettiest advert on the internet can still hide the worst invoice of your life. Which one would I buy? Well, if money was no object, I'd be looking very closely at the Canepa 206 GT, because that car has the full collector story. Early model, tiny production number, rare colour, beautiful colour, proper provenance. It's exactly the sort of car that belongs in a world-class collection. But if I wanted the best preservation car, I'd probably go for the blue Metallizzato UK right-hand drive 246 GT. Original paint, original interior, low mileage, right-hand drive, matching numbers. That's a very, very special thing. If I was actually buying one to use, I'd probably look at the more realistic UK 246 GTs around the 250 to 330,000 range, because at least then you might have a fighting chance of enjoying the car without needing to lie down every time a fly lands on the bonnet. The Dino's magic is not just in the auction catalogue description, it's in the way it looks on the road. It's in the steering, the balance, the sound, the proportions, the fact that it looks delicate, almost fragile, but still has that unmistakable Ferrari drama. So there you go. The Ferrari Dino market is fascinating because it's no longer just about buying a pretty old Ferrari. It's about rarity, originality, specification, history, colour, mileage, and collector psychology. At the bottom of the proper market, you've got usable cars around the mid 200,000. At the top end of the 246 market, you've got cars heading towards 500,000. And beyond that, with the early 206 GTs and really special examples, the price can become almost secondary to the story. And that's exactly why the Dino has become such an icon. It started life as the Ferrari that wasn't quite allowed to be called a Ferrari. And now it's one of the most desirable Ferraris of them all. Not bad for the little V6 car they once thought might need a different badge. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.